the myth, the absolute legend that is Nicholas. I don't even try and pronounce your last name because I'll butcher it. But congratulations on 4.1 million.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You want me to pronounce my last name?
Yes, please.
So it goes Dehandschoewercker, like hand shoe work. Okay.
I heard
Dehand.
Schumacher like halfway through that and was like, "Yeah, sign me up."
Yeah, the hand shoe worker, like hand shoe worker. It means glove maker in Flemish.
Interesting, but you're not making gloves.
Yeah,
You're making something else entirely now.
but I'm making AI infrastructure. But maybe we need to change my last name now.
It's very possible. It's very possible. Look, my friend, congratulations. This is incredible. The Ewell Fellows are some of my favorite people on the planet. We've just had the team from Enough come on. I think you know Gaelic and Eno well. They say hi.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you. I'll say hi back to them. I saw they just announced their own raise,
They
right?
did.
So
We've got 1, 2, 3. We've got 3 raises today.
Jesus, who's the third one?
It was Johan from Speech Labs in the Nordics.
Okay. I haven't had a chance to meet them, but maybe our paths will cross one day.
Slightly smaller round, focus on CRMs, not dev tools, but
Yeah.
but a layer that is equally as important in building technology in startups today. But look, I've got so many questions. First and foremost, like dev tools are boring as hell and infrastructure is boring as hell. But how have you made it seem so cool?
I don't think it's boring anymore. I think like the cards are redistributed now, right? And so a lot of the existing players that you had dominate the market are being disrupted. So that's what makes it so exciting. And also, I think we have really cool branding. Tatsuya, our designer, is really good at making things look a lot cooler than they might actually be. So shout out to him. Can you hear me okay? Is my internet all right?
Kinks on my side of the stream. Look, what are we actually building here? Walk me through it. I'd love to understand, because one of the things I've realized about Ewell Fellows specifically is you guys seem to go to war with the world and decide to try and change an entire generation of how people do things. Break it down for me.
Yeah.
I have questions, but let's start there.
Yeah, why don't I tell you the story that led us to build this, and then it'll flow nicely into what we do. Is that all right? Should I do that? Okay, cool. So maybe less than 6 months ago, I was building a consumer app, and in fact, my co-founder and I, and almost the exact same team, were all involved in doing this, and it took us 2 years to reach a point where the product was largely loved by users, and we were at a point where it was much more viral and it was successful. And the issue with that is it's not that we were bad mobile developers, it's just that building on mobile is incredibly slow, and there's many reasons for that. One of the reasons is you're always bottlenecked by the App Store review. And so before you ship something to your users, you have to make sure that it works perfectly well. And so that's why in companies you have like a quality assurance process. The development itself takes long because it's a steep learning curve. It's not an easy thing to do. And so this whole mobile development lifecycle relative to the web is incredibly slow. And initially we were thinking of building a dev tool for ourselves so that we would get a unfair advantage in building our own apps. And the idea behind that was that AI coding tools work really poorly on mobile. The main issue is with basically feedback. It's not really code generation. It's giving cursor and Claude Code the right feedback on the code that was generated, such that it can iterate on the code and make sure that everything works correctly. So you need kind of like what you see if maybe some people in the audience have tried the new Cursor 2.0. And the way it works is you have a browser in the loop, and so Cursor can then click around on your web app and do this verification. And so we wanted to build the exact same thing for mobile. Mm-hmm. And to be able to do that, you had to solve a really difficult problem, which was how do you get agents to interact with mobile devices, which is not trivial and less trivial than the web. The reason why that's the case is because On mobile, the only input which you can give your AI agent is your screenshot. And you have no like other side information like on the web. You have like the DOM, which is the underlying code of the web page. On mobile, you just have the screenshot. And based on that, it has to make a lot of decisions on where to click, where to go, and what to do. And if you think about the time it took us as humans to understand, a mobile interface,
Yeah.
you realize it's actually not that trivial. Like you're on a LinkedIn app, what is actually clickable versus not? Even swiping is really difficult for an agent to do. You've got pinching, you've got a lot of extra actions you need to be able to perform. And so it was considered like a open problem by some of the labs, all the way back in July, and nobody was really working on this problem. Now it's like, now things have changed and many companies are building, mobile agents, but we were, I think, one of the first to build one. So we had built this framework, mobile use, which enabled this agentic control of mobile devices. Give me 1 second. I need to blow my nose. It's cold. It's cold in Innsbruck.
I can imagine it's
sorry,
cold in Innsbruck. I find it really interesting. It's like these particular spaces are things that I don't understand incredibly well. But it feels what you're going to be able to do is enable product teams and growth teams to ship mobile features, not without engineering now, but in the future without some sort of engineering. Is that the actual goal?
Yes.
What does that look like in practice?
It's a two-step process. It's first get engineering to use AI coding tools and get to the point where the engineer just sits in front of their laptop and basically everything is perfect by the time that everything's done running, which is what we're currently shipping to our customers. So this looks like an MCP. That's what I described. It can look at the phone screen. It can verify, okay, does this match the exact Figma file that we're trying to implement? Is the feature working exactly how it should? And if not, keep building until that's the case. And then at the end, the engineer gets a nice code review. That's makes it really easy for them to look at the code and make sure everything is.
And so, like, if we look at an app like Duolingo as an example, what does Minitap do for that team?
Yeah. So today we help the engineers build much faster.
Right.
Our goal is to bring down the length of the development lifecycle from, let's say we're a large feature, 6 weeks down to 2 weeks. That's what we're doing in all of our design partnerships. Once this works incredibly well, then you can put this in front of a growth team, product team. And our goal is for them to go from an idea to having something in the hands of their customers in a day. They could build on the existing product without going through the engineering. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Why is this the problem that you want to solve out of everything?
Yeah. So the one thing I learned from building consumer is the companies which experiment the most and the fastest win.
Right.
The issue is because it takes so long to build on mobile, you can't run experiments. So let's say you're a non-technical person, you just spoke to a customer and you just got this crazy idea for this new feature that you think they might like. Between that moment where you have this idea and the moment where it gets implemented, on average, you can have 5-6 weeks that pot eye. And that's because you have to go through this long engineering process. And so what we want to do is, this person from the morning, they have an idea. In the evening, they could put it in the hands of their customers, maybe roll it out as an A/B test, interview those people, and iterate independently from the engineering team. And it uses the exact same technology that we're shipping to engineers today. Yeah.
You're building in a space where you fall in love with the problem, right? Especially with technical people, technical individuals. You can get creative as well. But obviously, we had to go and do a little deep dive into you. Figured out you were an amateur prize fighter. Spend multiple hours during the day or in your youth actively training in boxing, 3+ hours a day, which doesn't seem like a lot of time, but I think actually is a lot of time when you're getting hit, or in your case, not getting hit. What has that taught you about building stuff today and the discipline that's required? You just bop and weave, like float like a butterfly, sting like a bee?
Yeah, no. I'm very competitive. Like, I love seeing new competitors. I love it because, and what goes on in the Slack afterwards is, we're going to destroy these guys. Like, it's going to be so easy. And that's kind of my mindset when it comes to competition. I think I got that from boxing. The second thing is probably discipline. I think, within eWar, there's a lot of people who I would consider, incredibly smart, even perhaps much smarter than us. But one thing which I think I'm really good at is having this really good work ethic and putting in those hours and perhaps more than the average entrepreneur. And I think that's what doing this consistently and never giving it up is what has led me to this point. And I think I also got that from boxing, in a sense.
Why boxing out of everything? I'm just curious. Why the sort of science of boxing versus the arts or the martial arts?
Yeah, I think it ties back to. I mean,
Because you
definitely
look
there's
like
story.
a tank. You're built like a rock.
I wasn't like this as a kid. Maybe I'll send you a picture to put on
Dude,
the.
I need some of that. Like
I didn't look like this.
that
I was
trailer
a very.
video. I was like, dude, you look jacked.
Really, it's not just that. I mean, we were in Japan with the team right now. I've gained a bit more weight with all the ramen I've eaten, but um, no, I wasn't like this as a kid. And definitely, being bullied and stuff meant that I wanted to learn to defend myself. And so boxing was kind of a natural choice. And also, I think I was a bit of an agitated and a bit of a ADHD kid, and I found really this way of sort of using all of my energy in boxing. And also I think it seems like a barbaric sport, but actually it's very strategic and psychological. And I really love the strategy of boxing and the little tricks you develop to learn to understand what your opponent is thinking, see their little patterns in their behavior, and then how you can use those to your advantage. And that's what I really loved about boxing.
One of the things that I learned about not just boxers but MMA fighters as well is when they get up and they do the whole when they're standing in front of the cameras, the push isn't an act of violence. The push is to understand how large is your wingspan and like how where can I play with you.
Yeah.
And like, forgive me here, but I'm going to make a huge jump that may be disconnected. Do you think about that in building product?
So, like, help me to understand how you're thinking about this. Is this with competitors? Who's in front of me that I'm trying to gauge?
I think it's a bit of competitors, but also like the future iterations of the product. It's a strategy, right? Moving forward, you have a roadmap, but then with competitors building in adjacent industries and sort of can overlap with your tooling. Do you look at it and go, well, we're gonna make sure that we've got some arms out, elbows out a little bit, like in F1, and make sure that they can't come into our space, or do you let them come in knowing full well, like you can try and beat me up on the inside, but my defense is significantly better. Like we have a moat here.
The first thing is, we don't look at competitors too much, to be honest. I think it's fun, it's motivating, but we don't look at competitors too much. All that really matters is what our customers think,
right,
and what they want. So that's what we try to do. And the mindset is always questioning our current roadmap and questioning our current thought process. That's so continuously we always say, okay, we have this idea, and maybe what I pitch you today is going to be completely different in a year's time, because we're constantly trying to think about is this really the right avenue? What are the points which prove that this is the right area to go into, and what is disproving our hypothesis? So I think in a sense it's different to boxing, because you're constantly doubting yourself, and it's a good thing to doubt yourself. I think companies die because they commit suicide, right? It's either they're too bullish, or they get overconfident, or there's some kind of co-founder conflict. But if it's a product issue, it's usually they were too confident about one direction for too long. Is what my thought process, at least. Yeah.
You and your co-founder, did you meet during eWar, or did you come together and then join eWar?
No, we actually met in high school.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. We met in. So I told you I went to this military school, and then after, when I got kicked out of that school, I went to like a school in Burgundy in the middle of nowhere, basically, a town called Cône-sur-Loire, like 10,000 inhabitants, and I met Luc there. And Luc was this like incredibly smart kid who, I remember we had these history exams, and he would memorize the lesson like to the comma, like he would memorize all to the punctuation, exact words, everything. And I was just like thinking, this guy is so smart. And then I got to know him. He was really into robotics. I didn't know anything about coding. He taught me to code. And then we had this dynamic where we just started, building side projects together, essentially. And then mobile apps were one of the side projects. I really enjoyed building mobile apps, and then we just kind of kept doing that until we built our previous startup, and up until now. So, yeah.
Dude, I love it. Why do you think? Because I haven't figured out why the EWAR fellows are so different to other fellows, like any other cohort, any other batch, whatever it might be. Have you figured out what makes them incredibly different and what the patterns are between them all? Like I said earlier, it feels like you go to war with the world, and like Zane is building the Jurassic Park machine, Epi Minds is building like Lucy, which is like incredible marketing tool, right? But they're doing it in ways that feel like a flavor of something new. Not just a flavor of something new, but something completely different. Have you figured out why you fit within the batch so well?
I think there's like two categories of people. There's like people who have gone through significant adversity from a young age and then traveled the most distance. Like there's a startup, you might interview them one day, Punku AI. I don't know his story super well, so I won't tell it. But I think he grew up in a small town in Bolivia, all the way up until going to Harvard. So you have these people who have traveled incredible distance. I would fit myself within that bucket. And then there's people who have been incredibly excellent since a young age, like abnormally excellent. And I would fit, who would I fit into that bucket? Artifact AI, you might have interviewed. They're like, Ariel, he was like the youngest researcher at Cambridge, right? In the Stephen Hawking's lab. And then like incredible story. And I think they're really good at finding people that fit into either of those two buckets.
Why do you think you fit into that bucket? Or buckets? And which one?
I should ask Daniel this, but I think Daniel sees that saw that I was relentless. The previous company, we barely raised any money. We were like bootstrapping. I was broke. I was working a pizza place and doing tutoring and uni and the startup, and it was still, doing fine. And then, we were pushing hard for a couple of years, and I was like, if Daniel hadn't pushed to get me to stop building that, I would have kept going. And I think he saw this relentlessness, which I think is a product of my past, and past experience. It's part of my mindset, and I think he saw himself in that. Daniel has a similar story, having traveled this same distance, and having been relentless in the same way. And that's, I think, a good predictor, hopefully, of success. We'll have to speak again in 5 years.
I love it. I love it. Look, as we sort of get into the end game of this, I'd love to ask you a couple of like interesting questions that are tangential to what we talked about. The military school sounds very interesting. I went to boarding school, didn't board myself, but I kind of get the vibe. What is military school like?
What is it like?
Is it just straight, like you in straight jackets and military uniform the whole time?
Yeah, you do wear a military uniform. It's not the same as the army, but it's a uniform nonetheless, which is uncommon in France. It's not like in the UK. And I think it's a very strict, almost prison-like environment. It's how I would describe it, and definitely very violent environment. But it did teach me one thing, which is, I think this is when I developed this relentless mindset. They have a term in military school, which is a boviner, which is like to act like a bull, like sprint headfirst without really, putting too much thought into it. And when my friends describe me, they describe me in this way. They'd say, you don't put too much thought into your life decisions. When it came to building my previous startup, I had quit IBM. From one day to the next, I kind of sprint headfirst, and don't put too much thought into it. And I think you need that level of craziness in the sense to build a venture. I think it's not a normal thing to do, and it might not be for everyone.
It's definitely not a normal thing to do by any means.
Yeah.
Do you know what else isn't normal? To watch an AlphaGo documentary. What was the biggest learning and takeaway from that?
From AlphaGo, AlphaGo was such an obsession. Have you watched it?
Dude, of course I
personally.
have. Come on, man.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I talk to
So,
tech founders literally every single. If I haven't watched the AlphaGo documentary, there's something wrong with me.
yeah. Look, like I remember, having read some stuff as a kid about when I think it was IBM Watson had beat uh was it Kasparov at chess, and then I thought that was super cool, but I was too young to understand the tech behind it and stuff, and I felt like we were at that inflection point where Google DeepMind had figured out something which was going to be pivotal in a lot of other areas of science. And also, I think I've cried watching that documentary. At the end when um Lee Sedol gets beaten and you see everyone crying, and then the DeepMind team is like, "What's going on? Have we won? Like, we don't actually understand the game." um, I found it incredibly emotional. I thought from a historical perspective, like it was history in the making, and I wanted to be one of those people to understand exactly what was going on from a technical perspective, so that I could go and apply it in research. And I was really into bio, and I wanted to work in research labs doing bio and reinforcement learning and the combination of all the things which DeepMind had developed. And so I did that. I ended up leaving the university I was at in Japan to go to Imperial. At Imperial, I was able to work on some really, really cool research projects, which were I did in the section of these things. Yeah.
I love it. You've talked in the past about making this a generational type of company, and when I think about generational, I think, well, one, you're integrated into everything in the world, right? Like you become a household name, you become
Yes.
synonymous with a specific thematical domain. What I also think about is the effects that has on the entire tech ecosystem. What you plan on doing and building is going to speed up the iteration of product. What do you think? Have you thought about the impact that is going to have on the world if you allow product and engineering teams to move at a velocity they have never before moved at?
Yeah. Actually, I would describe the final vision to be I could probably understand what the optimal layout or the optimal app for you would be based on your usage patterns.
Right.
And I think what that would enable is having vastly different, mobile experiences or even outside of mobile for every user on every app. And sort of
So your
iteratively,
Uber is going to look different to my Uber.
yes. And I think that's a reality that's possible. And I think the app will actually build itself around usage patterns of the customer, what they want. You could even have the product team just looking at this dashboard and saying, okay, well, we'll go with this feature which has been recommended by Minitap. We'll go with this one, and so this speed of iteration will be iterations will be completely autonomous. And that's what we're tending towards, I would hope.
One of the final questions I love to ask guests on this show is very much who their favorite founders are, right? Mount Rushmore, 4 people. For you, who are they?
4 people.
Yep, that's it. That's the amount on Mount Rushmore.
Okay, so let's go with Demis Hassabis
Okay.
from DeepMind. Of course, I had to mention him. Let's go with Jensen.
Doesn't get mentioned a lot. You'd be surprised. I think people go for Altman because the consumer product, but like he sort of kicked everything off.
The Demis is the precursor.
It's just kind of stays silent, does his thing, and then just drops model after model after model after model. Like it's incredible.
And I think people sleep on of the impact of AlphaFold on the entire bioinformatics industry.
Dude,
and how
what it's done for life sciences. I was talking to Javi from Sofinova a couple of months ago, and I think I only understood what he was talking about after rewatching some information around AlphaFold.
Yeah, AlphaFold, and like it completely changed everything. I mean, getting the structure of a protein used to take forever. It was like an entire PhD, to get one. And then now we have millions, right? And who knows what kind of drugs we're going to discover thanks to AlphaFold. Anyways,
So true.
enough Dennis fanboying. Jensen Huang.
Oh, we can fanboy over Jensen any day of the week.
Jensen Huang. Who else will I put on there?
Do you like Jensen for a specific reason?
I like his demeanor. I like his calm demeanor. I like his, I think people also forget that NVIDIA didn't work for, many years. It was not incredibly successful company for the longest time until it was. And I think I like this drive that he had, especially in the early days, to just keep pushing.
Can I share with you
Yeah.
why I like Jensen?
Tell me.
I was talking to an angel about this recently, and he was like, I have never heard anyone put it like this. Jensen had to go against the entropy of a mother's love.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
If you think about that, and you think about what they had to do and go against, the entire world was against them. And the only reason we have AI in the form that we have and how he's built the shovels to the gold and whatever that might be, is because he found a way to get people to keep gaming.
Yes.
Right? And what did every mum and dad say to their kids? Don't game. It's bad for you.
That's true. That's true.
And now their lives are better because Jensen made sure they kept them gaming.
Wow. That's an insane perspective. Wow. So
But
who else would I add?
you would add
Sorry,
Elon.
I'd add Elon Musk. Even though, let's
Forget
remove
that side. I don't know why we have to caveat it, honestly. Like, it's like what he's doing for society long-term potentially could have some of the most like monumental impacts in terms of mobility, space exploration. And even if it's just those two, sign me up.
Exactly. So we have to put Elon Musk on there. I don't think the world has seen a better entrepreneur. So Elon Musk, and I'm gonna add a biased one, which is Daniel. I think Daniel I look up to incredibly much because, like, I love the way he thinks. To him, everything is data, and every decision can be made completely rationally. And so whenever he tells you something, he'll back it up with the research papers that he's looked into that look into this topic. He'll back it up with like data, and he's managed every company of his in this way, and it really helps me to think like he does. The second thing I like about Daniel is I do think that in a sense, Evo will be massively successful, but I think it's driven by his need to give back to people, and he feels like, I think he's already massively successful, and I think he prides himself in helping other people that he identifies to, or is similar to reach that same level, and do so easier than maybe he had to go through as a result. No, thanks to Ewo. And so I look up to that mindset. I try to do it now. I think I made a LinkedIn post recently. I spend 3 hours a week trying to give back what I know now to people who are at a slightly earlier stage. And I don't know everything, but I try to at least share what I know for sure.
It's one of the beautiful things about the tech ecosystem. I find it's very few other places or other ecosystems do this, whether it's marketing, whether it's finance, whatever it is. But like the sharing of ideas and just the candidness and transparency and like, we just want to help you win is one of the beautiful things about why I build in this space. And like, that's it. That's what I love about it.
And you definitely feel this in San Francisco. And I think it's one of the reasons why San Francisco is so powerful. So you have serendipity plus people's willingness to mentor for free, right? Just give back to the you don't get this in many other places. Maybe in London, you definitely don't get it in Paris, at least that I've seen. People start getting ego-driven and start being a bit distant and forget where they came from, is what I've seen. I hope that. Yeah.
Dude, this has been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to do this in person with you soon. I might have to sneak in an intro to David.
Absolutely, I'm so keen. Hit me up.
Thanks so much for the time. I'll see you soon.
Thank you very much, man. Take care.